You are now listening to Acres Productions.
What's up, YouTube? It's Mr.Negative back with part 2 of the cursed birthday video. In part 1 I told y'all about Job and his kids, celebrating birthdays, and that opened the door for the devil to do his dirty work. And I want to tell y'all about some more scriptures I came across, which further prove that birthdays are against the Most High and His wishes, against His principles, against His decrees. We're not supposed to be celebrating birthdays, and much especially all these pagan traditions and these just wild devilish ways these wild and devilish ways that we do celebrate them. So I'm get into the scripture. Okay, we're gonna start out with Matthew 14. This is in the New Living Testament. The New Testament, right? Everybody say, well, my pastor say I'ma play pretend. We're not even talking about the Old Testament right now. We going with the New Testament. It's at the New Testament, so your pastor can't dispute this, right? So if your pastor celebrating birthdays and this is the New Testament he tell you to teach from, so here it go. You got Matthew chapter 14 verse 1 through 12, and I'm reading out the New Living Translation, for people who only read the New Testament. It says, when Herod Antipas, the ruler of Galilee, heard about Jesus, he said to his advisors, this must be John the Baptist raised from the dead. That is why he can do so much miracles. That's why he can do such miracles. For Herod had arrested and imprisoned John as a favor to his wife Herodias, the former wife of his brother Philip. John had been telling Herod, it is against God's law for you to marry her. Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of a riot because all the people believed John was a prophet. But at a birthday party for Herod, Herodias' daughter performed a dance that greatly pleased Herod. So he promised with a vow to give her anything she wanted. At her mother's urging, the girl said, I want the head of John the Baptist on the tray. Then the king regretted what he had said, but because of the vow he made in front of his guests, he issued the necessary orders. So John was beheaded in the prison, and his head was brought on a tray and given to the girl who took it to her mother. Later, John's disciples came for his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus what had happened. Okay. Herod, this is the younger Herod. His father was so-called Herod the Great. He was the same king of Galilee when he ruled that area. When the wise men I spoke about in the first video, when they came from the east and they came to him and told him we seek the king of the Jews that has been born, Herod knew nothing about it. So he was like, what king? I'm the only king around here. I'm the king of the Jews. I run them. But they were like, nah, we seek the true king. He been born. And so Herod asked all his advisors, his astrologers, his wise men, his witches, his witch doctors, and spell, the voodoo people. He asked them, and they were like, oh it's a prophesied king supposed to be born to redeem the Jews and all the Israelites from their oppression. So Herod like, oh yeah, this is the daddy here, this is the father. He was like, oh yeah, well tell you what, y'all go find him and worship him, and when you find him, let me know so I can come worship him. Which he didn't intend on worship. He wanted to kill him because he feel like Jesus was a threat to his kingdom. But his kingdom is not even a real kingdom. It don't matter with it. You know what I'm saying? The only kingdom that matters is the kingdom of heaven. And men went and found the Messiah and gave him gifts and things like that. Well, they were warned by God in a dream, divinely warned. Some translations say they were divinely warned. Some translations of the Bible say that they were warned by God in a dream, not to go back to Herod, to go back to their own land a different way, which they did. They did not go back to Herod. So he was upset they didn't come back and let him know where the baby had been born. So he issued an order to all his soldiers and officers to kill every baby in that area, in that town, that was 2 years and under. So they killed all those babies. But Joseph, which was Mary's husband, Mary is the mother of the Messiah. Joseph was warned in a dream by an angel. And none of the translations say that Joseph was warned divinely or Joseph was warned by God. They say he was warned by an angel, as opposed to the wise men being warned by God and being divinely warned. So it was two different. The wise men were warned by God, and Joseph was warned by an angel. So, the wise men were more favorable in the eyes of God than Joseph, because he sent an angel to warn Joseph, but he warned the wise men himself. But so Joseph and Mary took the Messiah, they took the baby, and they fled to Egypt before Herod could kill all the babies. So he escaped, and they stayed in Egypt about 7 years. Herod died. His son took over. His name was also Herod. And this is the Herod that killed John the Baptist. So Herod, he was celebrating his birthday. And he was celebrating his birthday with all, basically turning up, partying, drinking, having fun. And his daughter-in-law, well, his stepdaughter, his wife's daughter, she came. First, let's go back. Herod married his brother's wife, which is against the law if your brother didn't die. So this tells me that either Herod's brother divorced his wife, either Herod imprisoned his brother and just basically took his wife, or Herod killed his brother for his wife. Because you are allowed to marry your brother's wife if your brother died, in order to for him to have a child. But you know what? His brother and his wife had a child, so his brother's seed could live on. So it was no need for Herod to marry his brother Philip's wife, which was Herodias. So okay, I understand. They already had a child, which was the daughter who did the dance, but they had a child, so she could actually have a child, and his brother Philip's seed would live on. So it was no need for him to marry Philip's wife, only if she didn't have any children. Okay, so the daughter did a dance. Now you gotta put yourself. Let's paint the picture. It's birthday. It's the king birthday. So everybody turned up. It's related to. Cause see, I try to reach the lost sheep in the streets. So let's relate it to the streets. The big man on the block. The one got all the money, got all the cars, got all the women. Everybody respect him. Everybody got love for him, or at least everybody pretend they got love for him. The man, everybody got respect for. Everybody know him. He known throughout the hood, known throughout the city. Okay. He having a birthday party. So you already know everybody's showing up because he the man around town. Okay. Now you know this birthday party gonna be turned up. It's gonna be some everything going on. Most likely it's gonna be at a strip club, or you gonna have personal strippers, right? There you go. You got the Harris' daughter doing a dance. She wasn't the only one doing a dance. You know, back in those days, they had those gypsy dancers. They coming out and they all be doing dances, and just like strippers these days, they all do their dances. And it said his wife's daughter did a dance that greatly pleased him. Now, if this is your wife's daughter, this is your brother's daughter. Now, I ain't got no business looking at my niece doing no dance that greatly pleased me to the point where I say, anything you ask, I give it to you. Whoa. You know what I mean? Like, this is your niece. This is your brother's daughter. This is your brother's wife that you married, and you still looking at her in that type of way. What kind of dance did she do that greatly pleased you? But see, when you go to these strip clubs, them girls do some dances, man, that greatly please dudes. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I don't go. I don't even need temptation. But yeah, they do some dance that greatly please you. Like, I just know from just seeing, footage of strip clubs off TV and stuff like that. Like, I done seen some girls do some dances, and I be like, whoo, catch myself like, dang, you know what I mean? So she did a dance like that. Say, made the king say, man, I give you whatever you want tonight. So she say, I want the head of John the Baptist, because her mama told her, she wants the head of John the Baptist. So, long story short, he beheaded John the Baptist at the request of his own niece that he was lusting after on his birthday at the strip club. You know what I'm saying? So, this is how we celebrate our birthdays, though. We turn up, we go get drunk, go to the strip club, we lust, we do all kind of things, because it's our birthday. And this scripture that you say, pastor say, only read from the New Testament, describes everything that we do on our birthday. Still, this 2,000 years ago, though. And this scripture describes the same exact scene that we do now in 2016 on our birthday. And see, you go to that birthday celebration that Friday night or that Saturday night, then you go in church Sunday morning, and like you ain't just engaged in this right here, and God done told you what happened. This is stuff evil people did. They beheaded John the Baptist. If you read further on down in Matthew 14, Jesus told you that John the Baptist is the greatest man he ever knew. And he was the Messiah. The Word became flesh. The Word was in the beginning. The Word was with God. The Word was God. So he knew every man that ever lived in the first world and in this world. He said John the Baptist was the greatest he ever knew. And these same people that you party like on your birthday beheaded the greatest man our Messiah ever knew. So could we possibly say that since you behave the way these people behave on their birthday, that on your birthday you may not kill a good man in your drunk and alcoholism and in your sexual lust and things like that, in that moment, in that you celebrating all these evil ways? Can we not say that you would kill a good man or destroy a good man in the same way they did? Most likely you won't cut his head off, but we can't guarantee you won't kill him. You won't kill a good man. You won't hurt a good man. because you celebrating, you acting just like these people. They doing the same thing you do on birthdays, on Friday, not even on birthdays, just a regular Friday, Saturday night. Go to a strip club and, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, get drunk and party. Like, you behaving the same way these people did. So you'll tell me, I ain't gonna kill them, I wouldn't do nobody, but you doing the same thing these evil people did. So how do we know you won't do everything they did? Okay. Now let's go back to the Old Testament. We're gonna go to Genesis chapter 40. And it tells you about Pharaoh imprisoning his chief cupbearer and his chief baker in prison with Joseph. And Joseph was the son of Israel, who was sold into captivity by his brothers, and they threw him in prison in Israel because a woman lied on him and said he tried to rape her because he would not lay with her because he kept the commandments of his Father in heaven. Okay. So the chief cupbearer and the chief baker had a dream, and Joseph interpreted their dreams for them with the help of the Spirit of God. And he told both of them in 3 days, y'all will be restored to your positions with Pharaoh, but one of you Pharaoh is going to kill. And 3 days later, it was Pharaoh's birthday, and he ordered the cupbearer and the baker to be released from prison. He restored his cupbearer to his spot so he could fill his cup with wine and keep his cup filled. But he killed the baker on his birthday. And it says on his birthday he invited all his guests and all, you know, and threw a big old banquet. And he restored his cupbearer and so he can keep his cup full. Now this goes back to in part 1, you know, when I was talking about Job. Okay. What were they doing on their birthdays? Drinking and feasting. What was Pharaoh doing? Drinking. That's the one he restored back to his position, and he killed the other one. So that lets you know Pharaoh would rather drink than eat. And you know, so you acting like Pharaoh, man. So when you go out on these birthdays and drink all this liquor and get turned up, like you acting like Pharaoh. So I gotta look at you like you may do something like Pharaoh. You know, this is Bible. This is scripture. Everybody say they believe in God and believe in scripture till the scripture points you out. Now you mad at me for reading the scriptures. You know, I didn't point you out. The scriptures pointed you out. You doing the same thing Pharaoh did. You doing the same thing Herod did. You know, the scriptures point you out. I didn't. But at the same time, I must proceed with caution with people who act like Pharaoh and Herod and his guests and his officers and things like that. I gotta proceed with caution around people like that, because we see that Pharaoh restored the man to keep his cup filled, to keep him drunk, as opposed to restoring the man and keep him full, so he won't be hungry. You know, Herod, you beheaded John the Baptist at the request of a stripper. That was your niece that you lusted after. All kind of incest, disgusting, all that. Like, come on, bro. People try to, you can't judge a stripper. You can't. I'm not judging a stripper. I ain't done nothing to that stripper. But I'm not finna say being a stripper is okay. I'm never gonna say that. never going to say that. That's not okay. But I haven't issued a judgment. I can't, you know. But that's not okay. It's not according to the scriptures. You know, at the request of a scripture, the second best man to ever walk the face of this planet was beheaded on a birthday. You know, birthday don't seem that special to me like that. You know, when I read stuff like this here, I go without celebrating a birthday, because once again, we turn to pagan traditions and devilish ways to celebrate our birthday. And when we turn to pagan traditions and devilish ways, who do we invite to come join us on our birthday? We invite Satan. That's why in Job he say, where have you come from, Satan? He couldn't come if they didn't invite him. If he's not invited, he's not welcome. Haven't you ever seen somebody you thought you was cool with having a party or a birthday party, any kind of get together, something, and you didn't receive an invitation? And you saying, whoa, dang, I thought you were cool. You're not welcome. Have you ever threw a celebration and party and you didn't invite certain people because they were not welcome? When you engage in pagan traditions and devilish ways, you welcome Satan. You welcome your master. So don't run in the church house Sunday and you just welcome Satan the night before, and then you get up morning and run the church house like they're gonna save you. You still in his house. That's your master. You don't know it because he got you deceived. But that's your master. Or you wouldn't even act like it. Now, let's go back to Job. We're going to go to the second book of Job. When he came back to God the second time with the angels. And God said, where you come from, Satan? He said, I've been patrolling the earth, walking up and down it, walking to and fro in the earth. And I've been watching everything going on, Illuminati. I've been watching with that eye. And he say, well, I know you noticed my servant Job, which he perfect. He held on to his integrity, even though you asked me to move against him. And remember, in part one, when we were speaking on moving against Job, was actually means moving away from him and let the devil have his way with it. So he said, yeah, you asked me to move against him, and he still kept his integrity. And so the devil say, well, reach out and put your hand on, reach out your hand against him, which means take your hand off of him a little more, because first he said that don't touch him physically. You can touch all his possessions. In the first book of Job, he said don't touch him physically. You can harm all his possessions. So the devil could not touch Job or his wife, because that's him physically. Him and his wife are one. So he wasn't able to touch him. God still had his hand on him physically, but he took his hand off all his possessions. So the devil destroyed all his possessions in book 1. So in book 2, the devil turned around and say, take your hand off him and let him get sick. Let him get, let his body fail him. And that's when he'll curse you, because a man will always trade his life. He want to keep his life, basically. You know how some people, they want to live in this world so long and experience so much stuff in this world, they willing to go against the scriptures. And same thing with Peter. Peter wasn't ready to die, so he denied even knowing the Messiah. And he told Peter, on this rock, on you, I'll build my church. You know, Peter was, according to the scriptures, like the number one apostle, number one disciple. But when it came down to it, when the Romans were like, hey, ain't you one of his followers? Peter denied him 3 times. I don't know him, because he wasn't ready to die. He cursed the Messiah. He wasn't ready to die. So, in a sense, he said, yeah, let me harm him physically, and he'll curse you. So he took his hand off of him physically. So he caused Job to have sores and balls on his flesh from head to toe. Some type of skin disease. They'll say leprosy, but it's not leprosy. We'll get into what leprosy is, but it never says about leprosy. It says he struck his skin, he struck his flesh with balls and sores from head to foot, and made it to where Job was unrecognizable. And now he has struck Job's flesh, but see, Job's spirit and Job's soul is his own. Now, if Job had cursed God, he offered his soul and his spirit to the serpent, to the devil, to Satan. But Job kept his integrity in his soul and in his spirit, even though the devil had the power of his flesh now, which, the devil has the power to influence the flesh. But if you love your flesh, you will be influenced by your flesh, and in return you'll lose your soul. And that's what he was after with Job. He wanted Job to curse God in order to work. Job will actually give up his soul in cursing God. But Job maintained his integrity even throughout the skin disease. His wife actually, she turned and said to Job, see, now he's able to touch Job physically. He touched his flesh, right? So now he's touching Job's flesh. Now he can touch his wife, right? He can touch her. So now he tells Job, now Job's wife allows, well, she doesn't allow it, but she didn't allow it. It was part of the deal, to where he was now able to touch Job physically. So when he touched Job's flesh and cursed his flesh with those sores and those boils, and touching and cursing Job's flesh, he touched Job's wife. Job's wife is part of his flesh, so he was able to get inside of Job's wife, and she told him, why don't you just go ahead and curse God and die? And he told her, be quiet, you speaking like a foolish woman. And he didn't hearken to her voice. See, that's all a trick from Satan, is to get the man to listen to his wife even when she's transgressing the word of God. That's why in our society, in our culture now, they're not after us, they're after our women. They seek to turn our women materialistic, into divas, into business women, into, basically they want them always after money. So in turn, our women will cheat on us for a man with more money. Our women will cheat on us with their job, with success, with goals. Like, they don't want to be wives anymore. They want to be business women. They want to have money. If you don't have money, they don't want you. And so if they have our women misguided and chasing one thing, they know we chase our women. We chase women, so we're gonna chase the women. So we're gonna compromise ourselves to doing something we're not supposed to do in order to make our wives happy or our women happy. And Job didn't transgress. He didn't listen to the voice of his wife when she told him, go ahead and curse God, so you can die and you know, get your sickness and your pain over with. He said, nah, I ain't gonna do it. I'm gonna hold my integrity, be strong. Now, before Job, there was Adam. Adam in the beginning listened to the voice of his wife about eating the fruit when he knew that they weren't supposed to be eating it, but he ate it anyway. He ate it because she ate it, and he loved his wife. So he decided amongst him. He made the choice and decided that he would share the same fate with her because she had already eaten it. He hearkened to her voice. Now, if he would have said, "Oh no, I ain't eating that," God probably would have made him a woman, a different woman that will always obey. But he listened to her, hearkened to her voice, and shared the same fate that she shared, which was death. And after Job, there was Abraham. God promised him a son to bless the nations, bless the world through his seed, through Abraham's seed. But with his wife Sarah, Abraham was old, Sarah was old. Neither one believed they could have a child, but God said yes. And Abraham wanted a son so badly because Lot, his nephew, had separated from him, and he didn't have any children, and he didn't want to leave all his possessions to a servant of his household, a slave of his house. And so he became weary. He probably worried about it too much to where his wife said, "Okay, hey, take one of my servant girls, since I'm too old to have a baby." She going against what God say. God say y'all gonna have a baby, even though y'all both old. Y'all gonna have a baby. They didn't want to wait on God. Abraham was willing to wait, but Sarah came with one of her slave girls and said, "Hey, go on and have sex with her and have a child." Maybe that's what God was talking about. See, her faith wasn't strong as it was supposed to be. You know, God told them they were gonna have a child. Abraham and Sarah. But they both was like, we too old. Abraham just kept praying about it, like praying, because he know God said it. But it was Sarah's idea to bring the slave girl for him to sleep with and have a child. He could have said no. I'm gonna wait on the Lord. But he hearkened to the voice of his wife. You know, he hearkened to her voice. But she's his flesh. She's part of him. They're one. So when you hearken to the voice, it's really like that's why he didn't punish him for that. That's why he still blessed Ishmael, which was the child that came from him sleeping with the slave girl, Hagar. He still blessed Ishmael because it's natural for a man to hearken to the voice of his wife because they are one flesh. She's a part of him. You know? It's not like they're just friends and, you know, they're not married, they're not sexually engaged at the hip. You know, joined at the hip. One flesh. You know, because once you do that, your thought process gotta be the same. You know, he hearkened to her voice. But if he would have remembered Job, and how Job did not hearken to the voice of his wife when she said, curse God, you know, maybe he wouldn't have had Ishmael by Hagar and he would have waited on God. And I believe I believe the world will be in a better state now. But it was our prophecy. It was all meant to happen. Like say, he and his wife were one flesh. So she came saying, okay, maybe this is what God meant by we'll have a child. You just have a child by my slave girl. But that wasn't what God meant. He said particularly you and Sarah will have a child. And he listened to the voice of his wife. And now let's go back to the balls and the sores on Job. When the person had balls and sores, and they want to call it leprosy, but that's modern day leprosy. Like if you see a person with a lot of white pus bumps and sores, they gonna say, oh, that's leprosy, or that wasn't what leprosy was in the Bible. Leprosy was white skin. Cain was marked with leprosy. Moses, when he stuck his hand into his clothes and then pulled it out, and his hands was white, and he put it back in, and he pulled it back out, and his hands were back to normal. That's leprosy. God changed Cain's skin color white in order to scare people off if they wanted to harm Cain for what he did to Abel. You say, what? Nah, okay. This is why they took the book of Enoch out the Bible. God sent 200 angels down here to watch over man. He sent them to live on a mountain. That's where the Greeks get the gods on Mount Olympus. They worshiped the angels as gods because they were something that they weren't like human beings. They were very big individuals. They were like 8, 9, 10 foot tall. And their skin was white. Their skin was white and they had white hair. And all the humans were indigenous to the land. They were colored. I'm not going to say black because black means evil, but if you're going to go by that term, everybody was colored. Everybody had color to them. All the normal human beings had color to them. There were no Caucasian human beings in that time, in the first world. The angels came down to live on the mountain to be our judges and to be our rulers and to keep us in line with the word of God. He sent them down here for that purpose. They were called the Watchers. They transgressed and lusted after women, but the women lusted after them. And I'm going to tell you why. The women, you're going to laugh, but when you laugh, make sure you go look up what I'm going to tell you to look up. Okay, the angels were sent down to watch over mankind. 200 angels called the Watchers. Their skin was not colored like the humans were. Their skin was white. This is why God marked Cain's skin white. And this is why they call it leprosy, to cover up this truth. When they say leprosy in the Bible, it meant you were like two different colors. Like your skin was normal color like a normal human being, like a indigenous human being. Some would say black, brown, red. You had colored skin, but you had white spots on you. You had like cow spots. You know like how a cow can be spotted, how a horse, how a dog, like you had spots on you, white spots. More people, some more than others. Some people had more white spots all over their body. Some people had, little spots here and there. But that was called leprosy in the Bible. That's why people like, oh, I don't want to be around you, something wrong with you. They were either scared of you or they sought to kill you because you weren't like a normal human being. So in regard, you look similar to these angels that came down from heaven, that were sent down from heaven to watch over us. So that's why they did not want to kill Cain. Nobody would try to kill Cain because Cain looked like the angels that were sent down. He was marked with that skin that they had. And in in the book of Enoch, Noah was born albino. And when Noah was born, his father thought his mother slept with one of the angels. And he was mad, and he went and asked his Noah's father, which was Lamech. He went and asked his father, who was Methuselah, to go ask his father, which was Enoch, is Noah really his son? Because he thought she had slept with one of the angels. And Enoch confirmed that, yeah, that's your son. He's a special child. He's gonna do great things. So Noah was the first albino born, and it made his daddy scared because he said he don't look like us. He don't look like nobody else. He looked like the angels that came down from heaven on the mountain. He looked like the sons of God. That's what Lamech said to his wife when Noah was born. He said he don't look like nobody else. He looked like the sons of heaven that came down on the mountain. And Noah was albino. Said his skin was white, his hair was white, his eyes shone like the sun. Yeah. This is why they took that out of the Bible, because first they don't want you to understand that in the beginning everybody was of color. There were no Caucasians in the beginning of the world. But we out now, everybody, all so-called black people, now you want to say, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I told you, see, we king, we the original man, we the original one. But yeah, you created that Caucasian that race. Our ancestors created that Caucasian race through hate and through fear, because they didn't understand it. See, just like Lamech, he was scared. He thought Noah was born from one of the angels, so he was scared. If that had been the case, he probably would have killed his wife, probably would have killed Noah or enslaved them, through fear and through hate. See, but now he was a man of God, so he loved the child. He went and took the necessary steps to see if this is my son, and it was, and he loved the child. No matter the child's color, didn't look like him or look like nobody else. Now you think, as Noah was growing up, people didn't make fun of Lamech and his wife, like, that ain't y'all baby, what kind of baby is that? You got a baby, your wife cheated on you with one of the angels. You don't think none of that stuff happened? Because Noah didn't look nothing like nobody else. He was albino, his skin was white. But see, later on, everybody wasn't men of God. So when they had albino children, they isolated them. They treated them bad. They treated their wives bad. And what did you get? You got albinos breeding with albinos, and they created a Caucasian race. Our ancestors did that. But see, that's the part you don't like, and you don't want to hear. So now I'm lying. But at first I was just telling the truth when I said that we were the original people of color. It wasn't no Caucasians on earth. It was all us. Oh yeah, you like that part. But then when we talk about how they got here and how we did that, you don't want to hear that part. But let's go back to Lamech questioning his wife about, did she sleep with one of the angels of heaven, right? See, these women out here, they money hungry and they sex hungry, right? So remember, the angels were sent to the mountain to be our watchers, to be our judges, to be our rulers. If we had any problems, if we had any questions, we would go up to them and we would get counsel from them, seek counsel and seek answers from them. And similar to how the Greeks would pray to Mount Olympus, or they would go up to Mount Olympus and pray at the temple of Mount Olympus. They worship those angels as gods. See, it's the same story, just different tongues. Remember, at Babel, the tower was torn down and everybody's tongue was confused. Everybody knew the same thing, knew the same story, but their tongues were confused and their cultures became different. So the Greeks are telling the same story we're telling, just called the angels that were sent down gods, instead of us saying that they were called watchers and fallen angels. It's the same, telling the same story, just two different cultures, two different tongues. But as man going to ask for help from the angels and from the watchers, okay, remember I told you they were a lot bigger than human beings. You know, we were average humans. We were 6 foot and under. We wasn't, you know, they were actually like somewhat giants. And which is why some men look to them like gods, like, you know, this gotta be God. It's something totally different than us. So you hear the stories in Greek literature about the gods coming down and having sex with virgins and having sex with women, right? You got Zeus supposedly had sons, and Poseidons, and you know, you had the people who had, well, these so-called Greek gods who would come down off Mount Olympus and, you know, have sex with women. Some legends say that they raped some women. They say Poseidon raped Medusa, which Medusa was a virgin. She was a good girl at first until Poseidon raped her, and then she turned. All this, those are Greek myths, but they're telling the truth. It's just in a different tongue. It's in a different culture. Yes, those angels came down and had sex with the women. The women, yes, those women lusted after those angels, and I'm finna tell you why. In the book of Enoch, it says the angels had privy members like horses. And you're gonna say, what's a privy member? Privy member is a private part. It means your penis. It said the angels had privy members like horses. And remember, all men were average back then. All normal men were average. And the angels had privy penises like horses. Privy member is a penis. Look it up. Why you laughing? Look it up. Look up the book of Enoch. When it talk about the angels, the fallen angels that fell after the first star, the fallen stars, they call them fallen stars. When you look in the sky and you see those stars glistening, those are angels. You just can't see them because you're so far away, but those are angels. So look in the book of Enoch when they talk about the fallen stars, and they had privy members like horses. Now, look at our women today. If you're a normal sized man, as opposed to a man with a penis the size of a horse, you can't have that woman. And if that's your girl, she's gonna cheat on you with the horseman. You know, it's just, and that became a theme back then. That's why Noah's father was questioning his wife, did you sleep with one of those angels? Because that had became a normal practice. These angels were sleeping with women. And when he seen his son come out looking like one of them angels, he was like, you must have slept with one of them. Because just like women is today, they was just like that back then. Once they got a piece of something that they, you know what I'm saying, you know, they say bigger is better and felt better. They wasn't messing with no regular dude no more. They was sneaking up on that mountain, messing with them angels. It said in the scriptures. But the Greeks are telling the truth somewhat when they say the angels, the gods came down. See, they mistake they worship them as gods when they were really angels sent down. And see, when those angels start having sex with those women, and see, I'm gonna go further to prove to you about this privy member and penises like horses that women start lusting after, and you know the angels were lusting after the women. Look up the statue of Baphomet. That's the son of the devil. That's Beelzebub, whatever you want to say his name. The prince of demons. That's him. Baphomet, Baphomet. Look up the statue of him. If you look in his lap, you see a rod coming up from between his lap like a penis standing up. And it has two snakes wrapped around it. For number one, that's the symbol for medicine. That's the symbol for doctors and at your hospitals. His penis on that statue is the symbol for your medicine. Look at the statue. You have two snakes wrapped around a rod. That's the symbol for medicine. And this same rod is where his penis area is. And this same rod reaches all the way up down into his chest. This is how these angels looked on Mount Olympus. Okay. Now you look at that tall white monument in Washington. I don't know what it's called. I really don't care what it's called. But if you know what I'm talking about, it's that long, tall, skinny white building. It's not even a building. It's like a monument. I think it's called the Washington Monument. That tall white thing. They have that same. They have that same monument in Egypt, and it's called the Rod of Nimrod. The shaft of Baal. Don't you call your penis your shaft? Don't you call your penis your rod? It says the rod of Jacob. It said a rod will rise up out of the house of David, and which was Joseph, and father the Messiah, right? He would be a father to the Messiah. A rod, a shaft, ball shaft, the rod of Nimrod is long as, this long shaft that reach all the way in the sky. And then you have the statue of Baal, Baphomet, with him sitting down. It's like his penis is hard and it's standing up, and it reach all the way to his chest. And it got two snakes wrapped around it, which will symbolize the symbol for medicine and symbolize the doctors. Now you telling me, and then you go back to the book of Enoch, and it said they had privy members like unto horses, these fallen stars, these fallen angels. And then it say the women lusted after them, and they lusted after the women. And then Noah's father was mad because he thought his wife had sex with one of them, because Noah came out looking like one of them. Enoch had to confirm it that, nah, that's his baby. It wasn't one of the angels' baby. This all fact, these scriptures, man. So, y'all ladies, y'all watch all that sex crazy and stuff you doing, cause that's how that was introduced into the world, through demons, through fallen angels. The scriptures put it out there. That's why when you out here just having all this sex, that's why I say it's not a sexually transmitted disease. Yeah, it's a STD, but it's a spiritually transmitted demon. That's the design. You love your flesh. You love for your flesh to be pleased. So if I know you love this, I know you will chase this. I know you will crave this. You will crave these spirits. Yeah. And I'm gonna end it off with the wise men who came to see the Messiah, and the three wise men who came to see Job. In the second book, when the devil had actually struck him with the balls and swords on his body. Okay. It it's ironic that they're in the east, and these three men came from the east to see Job, and then later on in the New Testament, 3 wise men came from the east to see the Messiah. I just like to point out, like how people say the Old Testament done away with, the old law done away with, stay in the New Testament, but you see how the Old Testament and the New Testament flow together like water. Like, it's like you can't have one without the other. And the East is like, it's not what we've been looking at. Like, the world is not a globe. Nobody has been in space to actually prove that. We've only had Hollywood images and Hollywood media tricks to brainwash us into believing that. You cannot tell me you've been off the earth and seen that the earth was a globe. You can't tell me nothing about science, because science is nothing but God's work. Don't tell me nothing about science. Some man put a name on that. He put a hypothesis on it. He put a definition to that. I don't go by science. I understand science, but science is God's work. He created all this. But if you're looking on the map, if you turn your map 90 degrees to the left, and you find where Israel is on the map, and you look east, you're gonna see Somalia, you're gonna see Ethiopia, you're gonna see Yemen, and you're gonna see Oman, you're gonna see Saudi Arabia, you're gonna see the Indian Ocean. The 3 wise men brought the Messiah gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Frankincense and myrrh trees are native. They are native. They are indigenous to the land of Oman, Yemen, and Somalia in the Ethiopian region, the Horn of Africa. The finest gold in the Bible was spoken about in Genesis, in the land of Havilah and Ophir, around there in the region where Ethiopia is. Now, if these wise men came from the east and they brought the Messiah these gifts that were native to right here in this land, and they let you know that's the east, that's the true direction of east. Now, it's east of Israel. If you go west, you're gonna go to Israel. Now, if you turn the map how we've been looking at it, these men would have had to been from the south in order to get to Israel. They would have had to travel north. They would have had to be from the south. And just wanted to point that out because I kind of stumbled over it. It probably, some people have been hard to understand what I was trying to say in the first video, so I, want to touch on that again. Like, turn your map 90 degrees to the left, and you will see when now look at Israel, and it say wise men came from the east. You will see they had these come from Saudi Arabia. Well, it took them almost 2 years because they saw the star. And they left when they saw the star. And they told Herod around the time they saw the star, and he killed every child 2 years and older. 2 years and younger. So it took them almost 2 years to get to Israel. So if they came from Saudi Arabia, it wouldn't have took them 2 years. So they had to come from either Yemen, Oman, or Somalia, which I believe they came from Somalia, the Ethiopian area, because it took them almost 2 years to get to Jerusalem, to get to Bethlehem, which means that they came from Somalia and Ethiopia, so they had to cross the sea, and pretty sure they didn't have no ship. They may have a little boat that they had to just cross it, fast as they could. and they walked and walked, or they walked all the way up the land and then crossed it, you know, up there by Egypt, but they're still traveling west if you turn the map 90 degrees to the left, 90 degrees west or whatever. But if you look at that map, how we've been looking at it, those wise men would have had to come from Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, but the frankincense and myrrh trees are not native to that land. They're not. They're not native to Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan. They're not native to over there. They only native to Somalia, Yemen, and Oman. So that means the wise men had to come from the south and go north to Israel. If we're gonna look at the map we've been looking at, because you couldn't get frankincense and myrrh in Iran and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan back then. The trees didn't grow over there. You got to turn the map 90 degrees west. Now you got the trees in the east, to where they can get that stuff off them trees
You are now listening to
and take it west to Israel, to the Messiah. But yeah, this concludes part 2 of the birthday video. Y'all be safe as always. I love y'all. Keep God first. Keep the laws. Walk in the way. Follow the way. Be the way to the Father. The way to the truth. The way to the light. It's only one way. You can't make your own way. Look up that stuff I told y'all look up. Like, look it up. Pause the video when it gets to a part you like, you think it's funny. Pause the video. Look it up. You know what I'm saying? Then holler at me. But until next time, see y'all later. Mr. Negative, I'm out.